Welcome everyone to today's Apple spring-loaded event discussion and my 2 cents of what they showed there. So, starting with, I find it a little bit funny that introductions like, yeah, they have a new spaceship campus there, everyone knows this already, thank you very much. But then I find it slightly funny that they don't start with the most important, like, hey, we have a new M1 iMac or so, but we have a new iPhone color. It's like, yeah, you now get it also in purple or something. It's like, yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, otherwise, maybe they need to start with the least important, otherwise nobody would even notice. So, and also, does this stuff maybe not sell enough? Some that they need to have a new color of upselling fans. Anyway, then the next least important, AirTags. Also, yeah, some other companies have this feature already. And the crazy thing is, again, right, that's such a minor thing. I think $29.99 for some tag to find your stuff. I find this a rather interesting first world problem of first we sell you a bunch of expensive stuff and then we need to sell you even more stuff you don't really need just to find your stuff in your couch and under the bed. And somehow, even I with vintage gear here, even I have rarely a problem. I mean, the few things I actually look for stuff is looking for exotic cables. Maybe I just always have my key like here or so. Maybe I'm just not the person for that, but the only thing I sometimes search 20 minutes for is like the one snowflake cable of dongle adapter thing of Firewire 800 or S-Video or a serial cable for Yamaha 9-pin DIN or anyway, and this is one cable we have in the office now, 20 minutes later. Anyway, AirTags to find your stuff. Ironically, they even to that, so yeah, advertising videos like Harry Potter, like looking there in your couch and stuff. It's nah. I find it funny how even for this, I mean, first of all, yeah, 29. But you obviously lose so much stuff. You need a 4-pack for 99. But I also find it funny that they built an additional ecosystem of, hey, we sell you some leather straps. It's like, yeah. Exactly right. So yeah, you can also get some leather straps. Not sure what the pricing is on this, but hey, based on U1 and silicon and water and dust resistant, and you can also customize them with emojis. Anyway, then the stuff we are all here for. Oh, right, it's still not the stuff we are here for. Then the stuff nobody in Europe or most of the rest of the world wants and is asking for, bloody Apple TV. Not sure, maybe probably they don't mention what silicon is that now. Not sure if that is now M1, maybe not. But 4K, so probably 812 set or who knows what. But now with the new remote there, the whole internet and fanboyism goes crazy over the remote with dedicated power button and stuff that your TV had already 20 years ago. Why do I say in the rest of the world not very interested? Well, first of all, most people don't want another device for just one dedicated thing and have a TV or PC. And also this is hilarious, right? You could just watch it with your iPhone or iPad and pair it with the TV, but no, you need bloody, is it €99? I forgot. Probably the only valuable thing for this thing is DIY jailbreaking and DIY custom project of tinkering with some sensors and stuff. Anyway, also not very successful because the rest of the world, they don't have as many dedicated series, and I also wouldn't even want their dedicated series, right? Yeah, their reality distortion field series of having Apple advertising devices all over the place and the regular Apple happy family fanboyism all over the place. So I see 0 point in vendor-specific streaming services. Also, yes, studies find too many streaming series, right? What do you subscribe to between Netflix and Amazon and Apple and Disney? And probably I forgot some because actually, you know what? I'm subscribed to neither of those because I simply don't have the time to watch all this random stuff. But probably the only thing you want to share like and subscribe probably is this channel anyway. But now after all this Apple TV, yes, and I mean they have one cool feature I would actually give them credit for. Also, yeah, how long, right? So much advertising. Basically, isn't it funny? It's like how Apple perfected the art of having many small dedicated advertising segments within one big advertising. But basically, it's also hilarious now that they don't have the in-person keynote anymore. They have this. They somehow perfected this concept of, hey, we have 1 hour advertising video, and in between, it's not like a university lecture talk or other product presentation, but 1 hour advertising with multiple advertising. I mean, how silly is it to show not like, hey, here's a product and these are the features, but calling a name and then, oh, and watch our brand new advertising first. It's anyway, the one feature that is actually pretty cool, and I wonder also, by the way, this AirTag other companies have done, so maybe I forgot to mention that, right? But the one feature that is cool in the Apple TV is calibrating this. Probably with an iPhone, somewhere they showed, at least I think, hey, there they right. So it's 812, in case you were wondering, and that is a bloody new remote. Do they also have a price? Oh, it's not 99 anymore. I thought, was the old Apple TV not 99? So not sure. Maybe they raised the price, but I'm a little bit out of the loop with this bloody TV thing. But the only thing somewhere they showed calibration, and that is actually the only cool thing. Maybe we should make an open source app for that, maybe even for Linux or so. Where even was this more advertising? Holding, yeah, the problem is of course the smartphone camera and calibration, but at least for some phones, I mean, Apple is of course in the position they have this one smartphone camera there, and then here's this probably turn your phone. So yeah, probably certainly works with Apple phone anyway. This is the only feature I actually find quite good. Or however, I would not need this for the TV, right? I mean, besides, hey, I don't even have a TV for 20 years, but I would need this for my display, although okay, the Apple displays come somewhat factory calibrated, but that is actually the only cool thing. Although on a TV, seriously, who cares if this is a little bit off or not? It's like, yeah, color balance, and originally, of course, advertising footage, asterisk, Photoshop and stuff, and yeah, maybe something. But coming to the more interesting thing, so after 18 minutes, they come to the more interesting. Also, yeah, still showcasing. Hey, look at our new multi-billion. This is where all your customers' revenue money goes. Apple Spaceship Campus. Finally, the iMac, and of course showing some. Hello, can we load also? Yeah, Vodafone locks this cable. We can be happy that we have 0 drop frames. Yeah, doesn't even load with 360p. No load, something loaded. iMac refresh M1 based, as expected. Of course, not a big surprise. I mean, basically, I understand they need to make this event as marketing stuff, but basically, yeah, I mean, as if not everyone was already waiting for, obviously, the whole line of refresh. Giving them credit for it finally looks different, of course. I said this before, I probably made a failed design video of so many details, failed design and form not follows function and stuff. One thing is also, in my opinion, one of Apple's problems that they could do better is actually not sticking with the design so long, because for most people this design became already boring, and they don't even want a new iMac because it looked the same for probably nearly a decade. So yeah, and the same for iPhones. In my opinion, they look too long, too similar, and then people's like, nah. I think they could sell more if they would have major designs more often. But anyway, new in colors, so it's like, yeah, M1. The biggest feature, of course, is colors. I have to say the whole presentation looks a little bit, I don't even like this look the most. To me, it looks a little bit strangely photoshopped. maybe this is one of the things that looks better in person, but at least here in the presentation, it's like even on the website, even on the website, it's like yeah, this looks a little bit cheapish, plasticish. Of course, it's not plastic. They removed the logo. Multiple things. I'm actually not the most impressed with that either. And so much multi-billion-dollar company, and can they do something better? They removed the logo here, which is like, yeah, I could care less, but I think they had a logo there. Some people pointed that out. But I'm surprised they still have this huge chin. Could they not get away with that entirely? I think this would make the whole device, like whole screen device, is such a low-hanging fruit. Maybe they need this for, maybe they could, and maybe sometimes Apple sometimes decides we don't do this now because we still need design changes in 2 years to come. But to me, this huge chin looks rather dated. I would have, maybe even the surface looks better. I need to check, but yeah. On other notes, yeah, you get this now in colors, because colors, ironically, I think they don't have space gray, right? I mean, the one color I would like, hey, why do they not have black or space gray? Yeah. Also, what I didn't realize instantly, but one major thing is they made it so thin they can't fit a power supply anymore, right? And so they know you get a dongle. They showed this here somewhere. Also, yeah, this is how it looks. There, not sure why they needs this huge chin there. I would get away with that. Maybe, I don't know, is this frequency, reflection, and for audio quality, but otherwise, yeah, just looks dated to me. Our iMac continues. 4.5K Retina display, or what is it? Liquid Retina? Maybe oh no, not liquid, only Retina. More photos from inside. Just that, you know, not sure what is that there? It's don't want to speculate. Whatever. Maybe I should have watched this in more detail. Speakers or what else is that? There's no idea. But yeah, also look how dated this looks done. I should not. Oh wait, where are the speakers? Wait, there were speakers. Speakers are probably others are the speakers. So yeah, I have no idea what that should be. This looks a bit strange. But so power brick. Somewhere they showed. Also, yeah, look how dated this looks. I mean, and this is kind of this looks to me like, what boring piece of plastic is it even? Maybe this would even look, actually, I think it would actually look better with black in the front. I had this, yeah, my iPad is too far. I think usually displays look better with black around because other accent bright colors, because the display here is black anyway, and usually it looks better black and not like white or color and black stripe. Again, this huge chin's like, yeah. Where's the power brick? Somewhere they showed the power brick. The power brick is hilarious. It is attached with, here comes the power brick. And this is hilarious, right? So this thing is probably so flimsy. I, again, have not seen it in person. But it attaches magnetically. So they reinvented MagSafe for a freaking iMac, because maybe if you would touch the cable too much, you throw over the whole thing, maybe. I find it rather ridiculous. This is the kind of, yeah, it's nice, but can we have it on a MacBook, please? Where, ironically, 2021 you have MagSafe on a freaking iMac, but not on a freaking MacBook. It's like, what the heck? I also want still want my hotkeys back. And then also color matching braided cable. This is now a thing at Apple. And the only innovative thing is the Ethernet here. Has one cable less, again, probably one cable too much and you throw the thing over. However, it is not unseen. The Apple Cinema display that I still have at home has also a power supply and no, I think it has Firewire and USB at the... Alright, I think they have breakout cables. That is how they do it at the end. Yeah, right. So it's a little bit different. It's Apple Cinema display from 15 years ago. They have a power brick, which is annoying. And yeah, fun fact, totally not innovative, right? Makes this freaking thing a millimeter or two thicker and puts a power supply in there. with a regular appliance cable there, because these wall warts are super freaking annoying. Now you have one dust collecting dangling thing there hanging around somewhere at your desk, and I really hate them, and I have too many of them, certainly contributing with this vintage stuff here, Yamaha, previous video, U90R and other professional or SGI 1600 and stuff, also power supply brick, super annoying. Especially if you keep some cool stuff around, then you have faster than not way too many power bricks laying around. This is totally not innovative. This is, in my opinion, really not form follows function, but function follows design nonsense. For a millimeter or two thickness, I'm really not impressed. Also, they have a new keyboard. Not a fan of this kind of keyboards. Yeah, with touch IDs like Nair, YOLO, whatever. But one thing many people noticed, doesn't have a touch bar, right? I hate the touch bar anyway. I used it once, totally useless, maybe garbage. Especially those previously you didn't even have the physical escape key, so probably touch bar stuff is hopefully on the way out. But also unrepairable, right? We have the office full with this, but I would need to disconnect my microphone. Yeah, because unrepairable, right? Even the most likely anyway, the previous USB cord attached already unrepairable, glued together, really not cool. And even this vintage keyboards here, some stuff, you can use the stuff forever, and I, Fridays for Future and saving your wallet, recommend using the stuff forever. Before I had Wayland, even 10 freaking function keys for scene selection. Also now with Wayland this doesn't work anymore because no global hotkey protocol. But yeah, unrepairable, and so this is, Apple always wants to portray themselves as a green neck steel, but of course they aren't. Similar to the AirTags, this is just perfection of capitalism, of we sell you expensive stuff and now we also sell you freaking AirTags to find this stuff, or we need to satisfy our investors' growth stuff, or need to sell additional stuff. It's like you're perfecting capitalism there. Infinite Loop 1. Again, not sure how this looks. A little bit, to be honest, I don't even like the design the most. It looks a little bit, maybe in person looks a little bit better, but it looks a little bit toyish to me. What was it? Surface Studio, I think, looked maybe, yeah, okay. But again, at least it doesn't have this chin. Yeah, not totally hooked on this design, but I would say it's mostly better, and so are probably many other events that are better. And by the way, I'm not streaming from an Apple, right? Because, fun fact, streaming from desktop freaking T2 Linux is more snappy and screen and audio capture than it is on Mac. I think you need to even have a third-party plugin for desktop audio capture or something. Yeah. Anyway, what surprised me, I was actually hoping for an M1X to already see MacBook Pros or even an upgraded Mac Mini. And yeah, to my surprise, no M1X with improved performance or similar such stuff, but an iPad Pro with M1. And this is really hilarious. First of all, I should mention, I think the maximum memory of the iMac right now 16 gig, which is hilarious that they still sell stuff with 8 gigs of memory, even in the Mac Mini, because honestly this is really limiting in 2021. Sure, you can get some light work done with it, but it's of course a shady way of Apple of ripping off the company and making sure to base price is not as high, but of course you can easily spend more. And it is similar here with the iPad Pro, now M1, and I'm somewhat surprised by that. I it's not like that many people ask for a faster, more powerful MacBook Pro, iPad Pro, but instead of giving what is next in the line, it's like, yeah, some random product. And I find this hilarious for two reasons. First of all, this fragmentation, right? I was already wondering that Apple before, mentioned this in another video with the DDK, that Apple didn't give a Mac OS build to people of use the 812 set iPad Pro and use this special Snowflake digitally signed, only works for you Mac OS build. No, they had to environmentally wasting send out DTKs, which were functionally equivalent. But now they have an iPad Pro, and fun fact, I would even buy this because I actually still have not ordered an M1 Mac, because yeah, the DTK is still laying around here because Apple's shipping logistics, previous video. But I would only buy this if it runs macOS. Then this would be an amazing device. And this again, Apple artificially limiting this and fragmenting their own, like similar fragmenting as Linux distributions and Linux versus Android just in their own house. I really wonder that by now they have not reunited that. Maybe they will in 5 years or in 1 or 2. Sometimes stuff moves surprisingly faster. But I find this rather silly. I don't need a more powerful thing where you cannot freely develop. There's still not an Xcode. Maybe there will be an Xcode later this year or next year or something. It could be, but the platform would be so much better if you could use it more freely like a Mac. Certainly the Mac still becoming more limited by its day. This gatekeeper and App Store and signing, and you can't even run GCC and have your own application, but need to sign up for a developer subscription and stuff like that. And okay, you can unlock it a little bit and boot Linux with all the hard work of the open source people, but it's not truly open anymore. And even with the bootloader unlocking, you are on Apple's mercy to not take it away from you or not have it in future devices like the iPad, right? You could now theoretically M1 iPad Pro boot Linux there of Ashai or so Linux, but of course bootloader lock, so that needs some jailbreaking. So I hope they have not fixed some bootloader vulnerabilities by now. Of course, they could always surprise us. Apple, if you hear us, surprise us, unlock this stuff. I would even boot this, right? Would be an amazing device if you could run macOS, plug it into a display, and because it even now has freaking Thunderbolt for what, I don't know, because it doesn't have macOS, and you can tell me what you want. iOS is just way more limited. I want more than 2-window multitasking or all the other ecosystem and potentially Rosetta and XOS apps or virtualization and all the pro stuff basically, right? And this is the next thing, right? I actually forgot to mention. The iMac most likely fully soldered on. So similar to, I don't expect there an M.2 slot for the SSD. So most likely I can post an update, but 99% sure this will be soldered flash. Of course, soldered memory as it is with the on-sock stacked memory. So nothing user repairable, nothing user upgradable in storage and memory, and especially for the storage, in my opinion, that is a no-go. And this also makes previously the Apple devices kept their value quite a bit because they were quite expensive with a market share. Of course, they produce quite quantities, but with a market share of 8 to 12%, or depending on the region of the world, not that overcrowded as a PC market with cheap devices. So even after some years, the resale value usually was quite good. And I expect the resale value of the ARM silicon, Apple silicon stuff to be less, simply because you can't service them. If you eventually exhausted the write cycles of a flash, which surprisingly with 8 gigs of memory or even 16, for some people the stuff is swapping to death. So some people have already 10% used rare leveling in their SSDs, or something on Twitter, previous video, after just some 6 months or so. that could potentially limit the device. If you are pro using something with 8 or, depending on your workload, 16 gigs of memory, of just 3 years or make it 5 years. So that means the resale value could potentially, if normal users notice, if that word spreads, be limited, because it could become potentially quite a paperweight. And I'm not sure whether people like Louis Rossmann and us could hot air solder this. Of course, you need to have the matching integrated circuits to solder to repair those. But if they are serial number locked, like bootloader checks, bootloader or other secure enclave checks, serial number married to this device and then no boot, it's like even hot air soldering doesn't help. Really shady move, a move totally unnecessary, and it would kill nobody in an iMac or MacBook Pro, or certainly Mac Mini, to have a user swappable swap, SSD swap, yeah, swapping. User swappable flash storage. Totally hilarious in my opinion, and totally the wrong way, and certainly not. This is a greenwashing, right? On one side, Apple greenwashing is like, yeah, we do so much, and on the other side, yeah, we do so much tiny little things of skipping the power supply in iPads and using a little bit recycled aluminum or something, but yet contributing to a massive amount of e-waste in the future to come. So yeah, that is the iPad IR. This is also using micro LEDs now, something the industry was moving. Of course, Apple is usually, our innovation in micro LEDs is like, yeah, not like, so this is a display innovation and research anyway, and not too much to do with Apple. It's just the latest and greatest they can source somewhere. But yeah, of course, stunning display. The more disappointing it is that you are so locked into that ecosystem. Yeah, XDR, liquid retina display, they call that now. I'm a little bit, who even still gets what liquid retina, nah, XDR is something I would prefer to call this micro LED, whatever, and not this stuff. Yeah, Thunderbolt, I wonder for what, because yeah, attaching a dedicated external GPU to your iPad Pro, again, with macOS and Linux, that would be amazing. With iOS, like meh, and whatever, Wi-Fi, Face ID, wide ultra cameras. They portrayed this a little bit of movie making with amazing camera, but seriously, if you are in movie making, just get a proper camera. It's probably you even I don't shoot. Even I don't shoot with an iPhone because visual quality and stuff. Anyway, that's the event. Not really what I was hoping for. Of course, they show more of their, yes, they are rich and they have a spaceship. I find this a little bit silly. Yeah, this is how good we have it there in our rainbow spaceship campus. And this is, by the way, what you're paying for, right? Overpaid stuff. It's not going to your Apple Silicon development, but billions spent on that. Yeah, not sure how green that rebuilding was. I think the offices, say, old offices refurbishing probably would be greener. But anyway, purple iPhone, there you have it again. What is that? Probably whatever, fine print, I guess. Didn't even watch it previously. So yeah, there you have it. Not really what I expected. Even the iMac, even visual impression wise, not really zero drop frames, but the stuff is not rolling. It looks a little bit strange to me. And ironically, even when you go to the website, this doesn't even look the most like visually appealing to me. But this might be just me. I clicked here earlier on Learn More, and the whole website, this somehow doesn't even look. This looks totally artificial to me. So this must be complete renders. Of course, I mean, of course they make renders, but I find this a little bit shady and low quality and not very much attention to. It's just a little bit fake advertising, right? You show something to the consumer that in reality it looks slightly different, and this is, I don't like this very much. It doesn't even look good to me. It looks a little bit like cheap Lego stuff of Nair. And so the colors, again, we can, but they don't have a screen. Why does this, doesn't even hover over to, yeah, pink. Yeah, so you get silver, but the two colors I would want, I don't really want it the most, but if I would order it space gray or black, it's like, yeah, thanks for these colors, but where is professional black? Anyway, but maybe deep blue or I don't know. And again, 11.5 millimeter, but not the power supply. Would it cost someone a finger or stuff to make it 30 millimeter or I don't know, and put a power supply in there? It's what's they even have here, pounds and less than what's they have here, counting down pounds of abracadabra, what the heck. Anyway, that's it for this video. I guess this is the proprietary power connector there, probably. Yeah, power connector easily attaches, because otherwise you probably throw the whole thing over. I don't know. Anyway, we have quite some comments. That's basically it. Let's try not to make it too long, otherwise less people watch it if it's getting too long, as usual here with the discussion. So what did I miss? And welcome everyone. I forgot hallmark. What do I mean with hallmark? So yeah, welcome everyone. Don't understand Linux users getting happy with M1 support, coming to the kernel. Who cares? Buying a system and trusting Apple not to lock the bootloader. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is it's probably the highest performance consumer ARM thing. So from that side, I'm also a little bit surprised that they made progress, certainly with Corellium there, of dumping their code, certainly speeds that up quite a lot. But I'm actually surprised they started on GPU work. So of course, so far only some colorful triangle. Maybe I make a dedicated video sometime soon. You probably want to share, like, and subscribe for that. I probably have to order something. Maybe I delay this a little bit further until the DTK is still not picked up here. Actually, I should turn it on. I probably should check if Apple already remote bricked that. Because actually, why did I not? First, my credit card didn't work with Apple anymore. A recurring joke here. And then I'm actually hoping for more than 16 gigs and like an M1X or something. But this is a little bit, Apple could of course have an M1X by now if they wanted, but first they sell what they can easily sell, and then when this is a little bit, I think, intentional of Apple, of the lowest hanging fruit here, the lowest hanging apple here, and then later it's like in 6 months, like, hey, now we have 32 gigs of memory and an M1X, and like, hey, all the pro developers, don't you want to buy it now? But yeah. Acertech writes very bad repairable and upgradability. Yeah, I called this out. SS writes looks awful to service. I mean, there is not really something to service, right? I actually, now that you say this, I wonder if maybe it's totally glued. Probably. And this is, I made a previous video of, maybe you want to look that, even with yeah, even the bloody surface is glued. Or recurring, super old, not buying a new one. Bloody surface is glued, and I made a previous video. I showed it would have killed nobody to have here some bloody screws here. I even made a video drawing them with pencil. I mean, seriously, some 8 or 12 or something screws, like 1, 2, and then nicely serviceable. You could still have some ring of rubber with some seal to glue in there if you want this for some, I mean, liquid proofing that, I don't know, maybe. Anyway, let's put this on the logic analyzer there. And yeah, so it would not surprise me, this is fully glued, and there's nothing to upgrade, no memory, no SSD, everything soldered. So it's like, yeah, probably. Andy Weber writes, are you ever happy? Yes, this morning, evening, spending time with my Junior. This Samsung thing is also not too bad. Actually, I have to call it, maybe I make a dedicated video about this. And by the way, if you want to have a happy screen, you probably want to go over to iJustine. This thing here is actually not this Samsung S10e. one of the best smartphones. How long do I have this now? For sure over 1 year, maybe soon too. And I have to say, maybe thanks to the build, and also, yeah, this looks a little bit garbage now. I have already a new one. But I have to say, previous videos, I had to repair most of my family iPhones at least once. I made a couple of videos swapping a display. My wife broke her iPhone display again, as usual, with a cute little baby at home and stressful day, dropped a couple of times, now it's broken again. The last year, now with a little baby at home, this Samsung S10e dropped more often than ever, probably 20 times, even at times at hard surfaces. No other iPhone so far survived so many drops, and this bloody, relatively cheap S10e so far has only minor scratches. I mean, the biggest scratch is that one, and the display didn't broke. So this is, of course, sample size 1. There's one small thing. Fallen some stone. Sample size 1. Although iPhone's probably 20 in the family over the last decade, but nearly all iPhone displays broke in that time. So I don't know if it's better engineering at Samsung. Leave me the comments below. But yeah, also, am I happy ever? Do you want someone pointing out some flaws, or do you want more advertising? If you want more advertising, iJustine and Apple. Otherwise, if you want some 20 years computing experience, first obvious things, then yeah. Also, the companies don't need to do this, right? They don't need to make it so thin that the power supply doesn't fit in there. They need to make it so thin that they glue together. They don't need to make it so thin that you can't upgrade the SSD and the memory. And otherwise, it would have been an amazing device. And I said this before. Previously, I came to Apple because in around 2002, 2003, I brought my first iBook, my first Apple ever, just because I wanted PowerPC hardware. And this was relatively okay. And yeah, they had zero defects, and the plastic case also broke, and the rubber feet fall off. And they also had overheating or like soldering bolts with impurities that led to cracks with the ATI GPU. It's not that they were without problems, but I brought this a long time for the quality of hardware. I still have a G5 here upgraded. I have a G4 Cube here. This was pretty neat. Of course, G4 Cube pretty limited, but hey, even the bloody G4 Cube had user swappable drive, even user swappable AGP card, user swappable memory. It's like, ironically, the maximum configuration of a G4 Cube is probably 1.5 gig of memory. That is only, what is it, 5 times or so what the entry-level configuration of this M1 devices are. But yeah. Let's see, Acertech writes, PCU outlet is easy to replace. Yeah, okay, I mean, yeah, and the Apple PCUs, I had the previous video, the Apple power supplies also. Failed really often. As writes, taking out the PSU is, what do you mean with really good? Really good? What do you mean really good? I don't like that though. It's stuff you can fall over, it's hanging around on your desk, it's really unclean. It's I don't quite see how this is really good. The rounded keys on the DG seems pretty bad. What do you mean with that? Not sure. You need to type with less typos. The red edge rounded keys on the edge, on which iMac, I don't know. Acertech writes, being green means reusing before recycling. Apple has the other way around. Yeah. Reunited iPad OS is just a desktop environment. M1 pretty much every Mac after 2018, terrible designed, but they ended up getting one. Doesn't feel faster than Gen 10 or Gen 11 Intel laptop. Designed for forced obsolescence, nothing user serviceable. Yeah, just what I called out. Thanks for chilling in there with your 2 cents. Could still replace SSD in early 2010s. Yeah, and again, the size is there, right? They do this intentionally. there is no reason the SSD should not be on an M.2 stick. But yeah, disposable computers are common. There, first day M1 kernel task had already written. Job 8891 says first day they had the M1 Mac, the kernel task had already written 350 gigs to the disk. This is exactly what I called out, right? So just another data point. And maybe swapping, do you have the 8 or 16 gig module? I would expect that to be way more pronounced on the lower tier memory. Azetec, imagine telling somebody at third century computers costing 1K bucket with locked on and non-serviceable. Yeah. Now all the chat jumps. Thanks for this Google chat. It's always happened when we come to the end here, then this jumps. Some process gone rampant, user serviceable added value to computers and most electronics, even printers. 2 measly USB-C ports on the MacBook Pro, 2 ports. Eric says, so you were wrong, on the MacBook Pro has 4 USB ports. It has 2, lol. Nah. Gross, not even a nice purple, it's lilac. Yo man, got a MacBook Pro M1, knew it had 2 ports and that wasn't serviceable, but had to get one for design work. Nothing pro about this except for the fan. The fan is standard on every other laptop on the market. At least you get a heatsink attached to the CPU. Heard about those MacBooks that had unattached fans. Do they even really have engineers there? What? I didn't even hear about that, but yeah, thanks for that. Just bad designers, Magic Mice that you can't use. Yeah, Magic Mice. I didn't even buy one. I also don't have the current or previous generation keyboards. I have the generation before because the current generation keyboards had built-in batteries, rechargeable, lithium ion. The generation before that had standard standard AA cells that you put some Sanyo Eneloop in there and can swap out in a decade. So the keyboards there you can use for probably 20 years to come, which is, well, unless you drop coffee in there and it's glued and you can't open it. Oh, no. Eric says, also has an S10e, got it for Christmas because checks all the boxes. Yeah, and it has a freaking headphone jack, man, and a USB-C, and it's not yet broken, and it has the right size. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, I can be happy with something, and I use this stuff forever. Of course, not the best for this channel, so I can't have the latest iPromotions here if I don't buy each random garbage. And Job 8891 writes, nearly everyone they know has an iPhone, has cracked their screens. Yeah, same here. I said this before, I gave previous iPhones to mother, father, my wife and stuff. My wife sometimes got a new one for birthday and so on. And especially for my wife, well, sure, busy life, also running a business and sitting half of the day with our toddler when I'm not sitting with him, and sure, it's more some diapers are full, crying for food, hit the head at some sofa and stuff, and then you run left and right and back and forth, and sure, with such a busy family life, stuff drops more often, and I think in the meantime I replaced probably all on average, I think I swapped the displays like Louis Rossmann style of unauthorized in-house repair here, probably twice on average, and this is crazy. And I'm actually really surprised how often the S10e dropped, and this is still the original display, although maybe thanks to the $1 or so screen protector it came from the factory. Although yeah, that needs an urgent swap. So this is also after 1.5 years. This is so probably not also fingerprints. So yeah, it is already bubbling and scratching, and yeah, but at least the freaking display still works. It's not like you get a free display protector, screen protector at Apple. So yeah, we are through. That's it. Well, Apple, of course, the stuff sells at hotcake. I understand the colors will sell like hotcake. It's just not my favorite color. But for the future of computing, this is, of course, a problem is Apple is setting precedents here, and the industry will follow too much. Like the Surface, Microsoft already followed years before with glued and touch disease, and we had this previous video. So not the best development, because too many PC vendors will copy this. And otherwise, I mean, even a maximum, imagine that a maximum on an iMac, maximum memory for 16 gig in 2021. Sure, for a little bit Safari web browsing that is enough, but I don't think this is enough for pro use. And this is also hilarious that pro users who desperately want this look. This looks really, I can't help myself, but this graphics look so Microsoft. They look more Microsoft and Lenovo than, I don't know. This totally doesn't tick Apple design language here to me. This looks. So yeah, 12. What do they have here? 8 gigs of, okay, this is more storage. What has this here? Oh, so they have a SKU. I didn't even check that. So they have a lesser, potentially binned of damaged silicon of 1 GPU less entry level SKU. That is, of course, Nair. So for $12.99 you get a 1 GPU less SKU. And why do they also, what? This SKU doesn't have freaking gigabit Ethernet and less ports? They really save on freaking use. Wow, what a last minute one more thing. I didn't even, wow, live on. This is crazy. So yeah, if you need some more USB ports and freaking Ethernet, then don't get the cheap SKU, man. So this is also a little bit shady thing from Apple nowadays. Of previously they didn't have this. The initial SKU, the cheapest SKU was the cheapest SKU. Now the cheapest SKU is somehow degraded stuff of you really shouldn't get. You will regret this later on if you need Ethernet, if you need a USB port, or yeah, wow. For $12.99 a lesser silicon, wow. And then even, I mean, this would be enough, but even the USB and Ethernet, wow. Just okay, and they cheap out on the non-touch ID keyboard. Wow, I'm blown away by this level of Tim Apple bean counting. I'm stunned. Wow. But pricing wise, why can I not select this? Delivery currently unavailable. So you can't, why can't you select this? Because it's still unavailable or what? So I can't. I mean, I only wanted to check the pricing, so probably you paid $200 for 256 gigabyte. The recurring, last but not least, the recurring overcharging of flash storage. We have this at the M1. And for 200 you get the fastest PCIe 4 Western Digital Black 1 terabyte fastest PCIe 4 storage. And here you get a measly 256. This is, of course, crazy pricing. We can double check that if this is the same pricing as the Mac Mini for that. And so yeah, 200 for this memory, which is already hilarious. For 200 you get to put this into perspective, for a little bit more, for 400, I think this was 400, the world's fastest Ryzen optimized CL14, 16, DDR4 3832 gigs. So yeah, this is, I mean, you can, this is of course standard memory, this is not the world's fastest, so you nearly, so this is, wait, this is only 8 more, right? I mean, this is also crazy, right? You think you get 16, but no, you only get 8 more. So yeah, I mean, this is surprising. 16, this is, no, wait a second, this is like twice as expensive as the world's fastest Ryzen optimized memory and SSD device for 200. You get 256 more. For 200, you get the world's fastest. Didn't even make a video yet because I'm actually otherwise too busy. You get the world's fastest freaking Western Digital Black SN850 1 terabyte PCIe Gen 4 memory, and no, it's like this ripping up the customers like this is just no. This is wow. This is, yeah, and this concludes the whole thing why I'm by the way, people previously asked if I'm happy. Actually, I'm doing this YouTube to be more happy because having worked 20 years in the industry, all this stupidity, all this lame stupidity really gets on my nerves of how these big companies shape the future of humankind, of being vendor locked in, of overcharging, of ripping off the company. And this prices includes VAT, in Germany 19% VAT, and profit margin of the vendor, right? This is end user pricing, including the vendor's profit margin. Anthony writes, it should be a salesman, Apple hardware prices are criminal. Yeah, this is really criminal. And this is not the cheapest crap. This is the most expensive luxury enthusiast stuff of... Anyway, I have some work to do. I have some Apple retail software. Don't delay, try our software while we still support Mac here of this. Don't delay, try that today. I have some software to write. I have some software to sell to finance this criminally priced memory and storage. Anthony thinks tech companies like Apple will work on the basis that people think that computers is magic. Yeah, that's probably the advertising theme indeed, of its magic of finding your keys in your Homer Simpson style in your couch. That's it for this video. I hope you learned something. And I hope to see you next time for all this Linux fun and more live streaming and commentary to come. And we had 0 drop frames on a freaking desktop Linux, right? Because streaming in 2021 is more comfortable on Linux than it is on a freaking Apple.